then you would have the most benefit and the most effect combating climate change. So what you need to do is create encompass the whole value chain: production, storage, distribution, transport, refueling, and other final uses. Demonstrate this sector coupling, and try to implement large-scale penetration of renewables, because that's one of the key elements next to, for instance, storage of energy, because storage of energy is the holy grail of renewables. If you can't store it, you are very vulnerable. And implement different use cases. I would almost like to say any use case which you can implement, try to implement it. For instance, our region, we started, and now we are actually also trying to implement aviation in it. Our airport in the region has renamed itself into the Hudson Valley Airport, which makes sense, being in the Hudson Valley. And they are actually looking for applications to decarbonize all ground equipment. So everything on the ground from, let's say, behind customs, so on the air side, as you call it. So try to implement these different use cases. Nothing is stupid, everything can be done. And use this integrated approach. Link the projects and demonstrate this systemic interaction. And then be aware of three main aspects which you will be scored on. The first one is excellence. You have to know what you're doing, and you know what you're doing, but make it excellent. Try to demonstrate that your proposal hits all the relevant aspects, is excellent in itself intrinsically, but also can motivate other regions and other projects to become involved or replicate. Replication of hydrogen values is a very important aspect, because it's no use reinventing the wheel over and over and over again. That's why we, with our HEAVENN project, reach out to other projects, other partners, other regions, other hydrogen values to get connected. We know a lot, but not everything. And together we know more. Excellence. Strive for excellence. That needs to be versatile. It needs to be regionally bound. And suppose we could come to a position that we have an hydrogen valley here and another one, and we are going to connect the hydrogen valleys, creating let's say, a pearl of strings like approach all over, let's say, the region we envisage, let's say Europe and the Mediterranean region. We can do that. Nothing holds us back of doing that. Also try to measure the greenhouse gas potential, the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. Measure it and try to monitor it. That is something we can explain to you in a later stage. We are trying to develop a monitoring system in which would enable you with one push on a button to give a status overview on how much sustainable energy is produced, how much of this energy is canned into hydrogen, stored, distributed in a tank, in an industry, or in a car. That is very important, because that's not available. And normally, after a project, we hire a consultant who we give the contract to see if we are compliant with the things we promise to do. We can do that in an online and direct way, and that would be something that would be of great interest for all these hydrogen valleys which are under construction to take into consideration. That with one push on the button, we can state now we have made 25% progress or 50 or whatever. Another one is, of course, boost hydrogen production in combination with renewable production. And don't be scared of also reusing and using existing, let's say, already in place hydrogen production, like from the chloroalkali production. It's this co-siting approach is maybe very interesting, and it fits a lot of industries, and something we are doing as well. So take that into consideration, but boost the production. Integrate renewables, as I said, close links, and make it big and make it worthwhile. It's about connecting projects, but it's also about connecting minds and connecting people. Sounds a bit cranky, maybe, a bit holistic, sometimes heuristic, but this is what we are doing. We are connecting ideas. We are connecting people, parties, and parties become enthusiastic and want to get involved. That's exactly what we want to do. That's the excellence and impact aspect. So the excellence and impact are related. Impact is more to quantify how much tons, how much kilograms, how much tons of CO2 reduction, and other, let's say, pollutants like NOx, soot, SO2 in many instances. And of course, then the finalist, if you are going to do it, make sure that you have an excellent implementation in place. That's not easy. The projects we are doing, we started it, we applied for it, we got it rewarded, we started, and we are already adjusting it because there are new insights. Be flexible in your approach. And Jürgen also sent to you a example of our hydrogen valley on our hydrogen investment plan 2.0 for the region, in which we try to, in a condensed way, describe all the relevant aspects we see. Have a look at it, have a peek at it, and then try to, well, make the best of it, I would say. And feel free to contact me via Racheli, and of course, and Jochem and the other colleagues involved. And this is as far as it, I would say, my contribution goes. Excellence, impact, implementation. Hydrogen valleys can be done, needs to be done. And think about the words of our European President von der Leyen. She said in German, with a German accent, I won't do that. I want to see more hydrogen valleys in Europe to bring life back to our urban systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. And there are a few questions. One of them is actually for me. I'd like to ask you about the intellectual property that is related to the design of a hydrogen valley, because you said that as HEAVENN, you are trying to connect to others and learn from others, and so that others will learn from you. Is there any thing that is proprietary and that you are keeping to yourself or commercializing in terms of the hydrogen valley ecosystem technologies?
No, it's the model is open. It can be used by anybody, and it's very difficult to protect such a thing. So it's useless to do so, I would say, because it's something we all need to use. So the model cannot be protected. I think that's, if you go to technology aspects within a valley, for instance, an electrolyzer, that is of course up to the parties who are involved in that. That may be proprietary, but the model is certainly not limited in any way, shape, or form. It is actually mandatory to replicate and to exchange ideas. So there is no restriction on that.
Okay, thank you. There is a question by Tim Moyman on how do you look at heating the built, the residential environment, also as a potential major off-taker, combined with hybrid heat pumps of hydrogen, and even maybe as a Kickstarter for hydrogen valleys, also looking at a probable higher willingness to pay by residents opposed to industry?
Well, I think if you look at the homes, they in general pay more for the energy than industries. And I think that hydrogen still is somewhat more expensive than natural gas, of course, or the relevant, let's say, alternatives. But I think if we can convince society that this is one of the aspects we need to do, it's not a silver bullet, it's not the only solution, I think people will do so. I would, for myself, would do so. Because if I look at my, let's say, energy bill on an annual basis, okay, maybe it would increase 10 or 20%. I'm willing to sacrifice, to bring that offer. I'm willing to, well, sacrifice the money because there is a benefit to it, because I'm not doing it for myself. It's also doing it for my society, for the environment, for my kids, etc. So I'm very willing to do that. And not everybody, of course, is in the position to do so. I do understand. But I think application in mobility and the built environment are the two applications which are so much in view and so close to people and persons. If you can demonstrate that it works there is there should be no hesitation in doing so. So I would be willing to pay the price. I'm not an average Dutch. I'm an average Dutch guy, but I'm not, let's say, from. I can afford it, but we need to also make let's say the financial system so that it can be bared by everybody.
Thanks. There is a question by Gili Bitan Banin from the Israeli Institute of Energy and Environment, and Gili is asking, what percentage of the hydrogen in the Hydrogen Valley site is from blue or gray hydrogen, and what percentage is already from green hydrogen?
In our Hydrogen Valley project, we have 0 blue hydrogen. It's all green. And if you would ask me about the volumes at this moment, I have to say I can't tell, but I can give you an estimate. We are going to produce about 8,000 kilograms. If it's fully operational, it will be 7,000 to 8,000 kilograms per day, 7 to 8 tons a day, production and consumption. So it will be balanced. But I have to look into the figures again because I don't know them by heart, and especially now I can't repeat the just figure. So apologies for that. But we can have a look at that. If Jochem makes a note of that, we'll find out and send the most actual figure around. Okay.
Okay. And maybe this is also the point that I can ask a question that we discussed a few weeks ago, and that had to do with sort of monitoring the source of hydrogen. The Netherlands, for instance, is considering to import hydrogen. Then it is important to know what is the source. Is it gray hydrogen? Is it blue hydrogen? Is it green hydrogen? And we were talking about this because we were relating to the possibility of Israel to contribute in the, let's say, the monitoring of the sources of the hydrogen. Could you relate to that?
Well, yeah, at the moment, most hydrogen is produced from natural gas globally. So that's gray. I think blue will pick up rather soon. I think there needs to be some, let's say, storage facilities need to be prepared for that. Green is, of course, the thing we want because that's the maximum contribution. But the monitoring at the moment, I think on the short term, actually, I think that the most import will be green. Looking to the initiatives for Europe and in Portugal and Spain predominantly, that will be exporting green hydrogen within the foreseeable future. That will not be blue because there is also some discussion in Europe going on blue versus green in let's say in the Brussels domain. And that has been, let's say, more or less captured in the Fit for 52 program, which was recently published.
I was referring more to tracking the origin. That means using AI technology or any other technology to make sure what is the origin and how do we capture origin along the route.
Okay, sorry, I misinterpreted. I think tracking and tracing of the quality and of the hydrogen is very important, and we have a system for that. It's called the Certify system. It's been developed by the FCH-JU and by amongst else Inicio as a consultant, and they are doing that. That can really certify what is the quality of the hydrogen in the sense of percentage green, percentage blue, and percentage gray, etc. But it's really important to be very sure about the origin and let's say the color or the percentage of the color, or let's say in other words, the content on decarbonization. But it's something we need to work on further.
Okay, there is a question about the electrolyzers. The electrolyzers leftover, sorry. The oxygen and the salts and other materials. What is going to be done with them in terms to keep the Earth environment safe?
Well, if you have an electrolyzer, it generates, of course, water. Actually, a water electrolyzer, it generates oxygen as well. And in many instances, it's looked upon utilizing that oxygen. But transporting oxygen is a let's say delicate art, so it needs to be looked upon concretely. In our projects, we do look and co-siting that the oxygen which is generated can be reutilized in the vicinity of the industry in the vicinity, not in all cases. And if you look at the salt is mined predominantly for chlorine production for chemical uses. The hydrogen is a byproduct, and we are reutilizing that that byproduct, which is now burned for energy, but will be cleaned and made to let's say, to fit the standards for using, for instance, in mobility.
Okay. And one more last question comes from me. If you can see the thread of my question, so I was asking you about the intellectual property of different hydrogen values. I was asking you about, I forgot what I asked you, but I know I forgot. I asked you about tracing of the hydrogen. And my last question to you has to do with the economy, not the OPEX and the CAPEX, but hydrogen as a hydro coin. Okay, I understand, or my vision is that eventually there will be hydrogen values that are going to interact with each other at an economic basis, and there will have to be a hydrogen currency, and the hydrogen will have to have its origin related to it, so that we will know that this value of this hydrogen is higher than the value of another hydrogen that is generated in a other way. Could you say something about hydrogen and the hydrogen coin?
Well, that's a very good remark, Michele, because, you know, look at the kilowatt hour. It's universal all over the universe. A kilowatt hour is a kilowatt hour, and a kilogram of hydrogen is a kilogram of hydrogen. So if you can quantify that, I think it makes sense to have a, let's say, maybe a standard on that, or maybe in currency or other forms of that. If I see how Bitcoin takes off, why not hydro coin or something like that? So I think that there is some really, I think there is some interest to that. I have to think about it further, but so on the first impulse, I think it's why not? I think it might even benefit and valorize the worth of what we're doing or going to do. Okay.
Thanks. Because in my view, if we would now establish these different hydrogen values that were designed yesterday, the next step could be that we will let them interact with each other. And the interaction will, of course, be by transporting hydrogen from place A to place B, but also seeing that one place will have a higher hydrogen economy, and therefore I see it as I would see banking and any other let's say currency that will evolve, and I assume that will also happen to hydrogen over time.
Okay.
If there are no more questions, then I would like to conclude, and we will do this in the following way. Jochem and I are extremely grateful to all the lecturers that provided us with extremely professional knowledge and their insights and experience. We would like to thank all the attendants, both the designers, as we call them, as well as the listeners. Without you, we would not have enjoyed each other so much, and you would not have learned so much from each other. As we are sensitive to the product of our summer school, we will share with you a survey, and you are welcome to give us your feedback, and we of course would like also to improve. Regarding the assignments that we evaluated yesterday till late in night, we will share with each group the evaluation that we have, and you can then learn from this further and also take into account the messages that were conveyed now by Patrick. We established a WhatsApp group mainly for the purpose of the Hydrogen Valley designers. If you're interested, you can remain in that group, and we will consider what to do with it. It is quite an international group, and maybe there will be some benefit in searching for partners or exchanging ideas, so we can also discuss that. The presentations, as you could see, are already available at the website of the Israeli-Dutch Innovation Center website. It is in the chat, idic.org.il, and Jochem and I will also share the link through an email that we will send. And my last comment is, as we are also trying to impact, as Patrick said beforehand, the hydrogen economy, we have advertised on social media. You can follow the posts that we have submitted, and you're welcome also to post and continue the network of the new people that you met and the others that you have already been in touch with. Jochem, would you like to add something?
I have no further additions, but I would just like to thank you all for your active participation, also for your enthusiasm. And Racheli, also thank you to you.
And I thank you, Jochem. Without you, I could not do this. Thank you and goodbye. And thanks also to Avner and Leo for supporting us. We will also share with you the recordings on YouTube Live. Thank you, Toda, and bye-bye.
Thank you very much.